Hey guys, in this video, we are going to break down all of the synergies in NHL 23's Hockey Ultimate Team. We're going to do a full tier list, and I'll give you guys my guide on what are the best and worst synergies in the game. Now, please, again, if it fits your playstyle, always go with what works best for you. But if you're coming to this video because you just want some guidance on some of the best ones and ones to focus on, these are my opinions. The first thing I want to bring up though, guys, is there is a lot of attributes that don't impact the game all that much. And that is why a lot of these synergies are going to be lower rated throughout this list. For example, discipline, it really doesn't do anything for the online game. And another example would be offensive awareness. Once you hit about 82 to 85 offensive awareness, you really don't see the impact of needing that stat increased anymore. Offensive awareness, for anyone that doesn't know, helps with handling the puck when you receive a pass, things like that. So if you play with a bronze player who has, like 75 offensive awareness, you'll notice when you pass the puck to him, he'll bobble it for a second before he receives it. After about the 80-ish range, that is completely gone, and you really don't notice anything from 80 to 99. So again, just another one that doesn't really have that much of an impact on the game. So without any further ado, guys, let's get into the tier list. All right, we're going to start out in the F tier. So these are the synergies that I just have no interest in at all. And we're going to start off first with a new one, Dangle City. So Dangle City will give 3 to deking, +2 to discipline, +2 to hand-eye, and +2 to slap shot accuracy. So explain why I don't think this is a very good one at all. One, discipline is just a stat that you don't need to worry about ever when you're playing online or even in squad battles. Your AI really doesn't take penalties all that often, and having a little bit higher discipline is not going to impact it all that much at all, really. The second is hand-eye. Now, hand-eye is going to help with tips and things like that. I've already noticed that if your player is set up looking at you, it doesn't matter if they have 70 hand-eye, they're going to tip the puck. I haven't noticed ever this stat being higher at like 99 and some crazier new tip animations. If your guy is in the way and set up correctly, you can just throw the puck on net, he's going to tip it almost every time regardless. The next is slap shot accuracy. Now, this is more of an NHL 23 thing, and this could change throughout the year. But I don't know about you guys, but, one-timers and slap shots, I'm not really scoring with it all. You just don't seem to beat the goaltender at NHL 23 currently with slap shots at all, really. Wrist shots, on the other hand, they seem to be the go-to. And then deking. There is a lot that goes into being able to deke well, and I would rather have agility and puck control more than the actual deking stat. The deking stat at a certain point is impactful. So again, anyone that has like under 80 deking, you'll go to do just a normal R1 deke, and it'll take forever to get the puck. It's very, very noticeable. But once you get to that like 80 range and above, it really doesn't increase all that much, and you can do way more with agility and puck control than you can with deking. So for all of that, that is why Dangle City is in the F tier. The next is Bombarded. So a lot like what I talked about in terms of slap shot accuracy in NHL 23, you're just taking wrist shots far more than you're taking slap shots in this game until you can actually beat the goaltender on a one-timer or from the point at all. Slap shot is just not really a necessary stat. Again, this is all just from my own experience in the game. It doesn't mean that slap shots are pointless. I think that, they do have their impact in terms of tips on net, going for rebound shots, things like that. But other than that, I haven't been able to just haul off and pick a corner on a slap shot at all this game. So again, this might be some big disagreement for people in the comments section. It's just my own personal experience with the game. Until there's a change in that, slap shot is just not really going to be all that necessary. Then you've got +4 to discipline. Again, not really necessary at all. And +4 to strength. While strength is a modifier stat, it does not have a huge impact. So body checking is going to impact the ability to hit far more than strength does. Strength helps out with balance as well as body checking, but it is not the stat that overrides it. The other two come in front of it, so that's why Bombarded is in the F tier. Next, we've got Light the Lamp. So while slap shot accuracy and power I don't think is all that important in NHL 23, wrist shot accuracy and power is. However, Light the Lamp only gives you +1 to each of those categories. It doesn't give you +2. It gives you +3 to offensive awareness, and what I mentioned earlier on in the video, offensive awareness at a certain point just does not help you at all. This is more of an attribute that you would need in EASHL more than you would need in Hockey Ultimate Team, because once you get players, and really just base gold players, they have over 80 offensive awareness to begin with. And then hand-eye, again, hand-eye is not going to be the end-all be-all that's going to allow you to tip the puck in the net. You just make sure you're in position more than anything else. So that's why Light the Lamp, just not all that important in NHL 23. All right, on to the C tier, we've got Applesauce. Applesauce is going to give you +2 to wrist shot accuracy. That is not bad. And passing, that was much more impactful in NHL 22. In NHL 23, the pass assist model is turned back on. It is very easy to pass the puck again, just like it was for pretty much every installment of the franchise from 2008 all the way up to NHL 21. +4 to durability. Again, you're not really going to see a lot of non-injuries because of durability. You're not going to take a big hit and stay in the game because your durability stat is huge. That's such a infrequent thing that would ever have an impact on. And then, like I said, +2 to deking. Well, +2 to deking isn't bad. I would just much rather have agility and puck control. So that is why this is in the C tier. What holds it up is the +2 to wrist shot accuracy. That's the only thing, again, I think it's more valuable than the other ones. Next in the C tier, we've got heart and soul, and this is going to depend on the position, obviously. If it's a winger, you're not going to receive that big of a bonus because of the +3 to faceoffs. However, the +3 to faceoffs is very impactful for a centerman. It'll help break ties if you guys both do the same exact movement. But it also has +3 to puck control, which does help with you being able to hold on to the puck when you're making those insane dekes and things like that. And stick checking is a very important stat defensively. So what the stick checking stat actually does is when you tap R1, I don't mean hold it down, I mean tap R1. The stick checking stat determines how fast and how accurate you actually hit your poke. So when you hit R1, your stick will automatically go to where the puck is when you hit R1. So that's why you end up getting tripping calls if you go to, you know, if you do it at the wrong time and someone's already passed you and their skates are now in the way when you hit R1. That is why you get tripping calls. A stick checking stat that's really high will give you the fastest frame by frame stick check, as well as basically auto locked on that you can get in the game. +2 endurance is, again, not something that's going to be super necessary. I think this is probably more needed on icons than anything else because their endurance is really low, but everyone's endurance is roughly around the same. So again, that's why it's in the C tier. I think for centerman, it is definitely way more valuable, but even as a winger, the puck control and stick checking stat, I think, are worth it. Moving on to the B tier, we've got well-rounded. This year's well-rounded is an extremely good synergy. +2 to agility, which I think is very, very underrated, especially this year. If you've been watching early on, especially in my streams or my videos, you'll notice guys like Barzal or Johnny Gaudreau have a really big impact, especially getting around everyone in the corners. That's from agility more than anything else. So +2 to agility is very useful, while +3 to offensive awareness, like I mentioned earlier, is really not necessary at all once you hit above 80. +3 defensive awareness is one of the most important stats in the game. Defensive awareness determines how fast and how much you're able to intercept a pass. So obviously for defensemen, this is going to matter a lot more. But if you're giving up a lot of forced cross-ice passes, it's more often than not because your defense has really low defensive awareness. So D awareness is a very important one. And then +2 to wrist shot accuracy. Like I mentioned, I think slap shot accuracy isn't nearly as important this year as wrist shot accuracy. So for all of those reasons, it's in the B tier. Next, we've got Gladiator. Now, Gladiator is one of the more important ones, I think, because body checking is so necessary, especially early on in the game. As the game goes along and everyone has really high body checking, I think that this one will sort of fade away. But +2 to body checking, very important stat. +2 to endurance, not as much, but it doesn't hurt. 3 to shot blocking is completely useless. +2 to strength is a modifier, but then you also get the 2 to wrist shot power. So I think the reason why Gladiator is in the B tier for me is because it saves and helps a lot of cards that really struggle defensively, especially knocking people off the puck. So body checking, again, is a very, very important stat. But on Johnny Gaudreau, for example, his body checking is so low that this doesn't really help it all that much, but +2 to strength and +2 to body checking does help it a little bit more. And then it's that +2 to wrist shot power that I think sets it over the edge into the B tier. There's other cards a lot like base Kale McCarr, or I guess his X Factor as well. Again, it really helps it out. He gets him up to 80 when you have his X Factor, and I think it's just an impactful one. So Gladiator, and for me, is in the B tier. Next in the B tier, we've got Distributor. This is going to give you +1 to acceleration, which speed, acceleration, and agility are essentially the 3 most important stats in the game, guys. They dictate how fast, how agile you're going to be getting towards the net. So while speed is the most important, acceleration is the second, and agility, honestly, they're interchangeable for me this year. But +1 to acceleration, even though it's such a slight boost, it does help out. So when you compare it to other ones that just raise useless attributes, it helps out significantly. +2 to deking, like I mentioned again, deking isn't the end-all be-all, but +2 to face-offs, that does help out quite a bit, especially for centermen. And then +2 to passing. Again, this is going to be in the B tier for centermen. But if you're not using a centerman, then again, I guess it's not really, I'd probably put it in the C tier. But if you are putting it on a centerman, I think that this does have some usefulness, and that's why it's in the B tier. And then lastly, in the B tier, we've got Magician. And while Dangle City does help out with deking a little bit, Magician hits on all of them, all the perfect stats that you need. +2 to agility, +2 to deking, +2 to puck control. You mix all of those up, and it's way more impactful than a +3 to deking. So while +4 durability is pointless, the deking with agility and puck control is very, very useful. This is going to help out a lot of cards that are maybe a little bit more stiff. For example, a card like Austin Matthews, where agility is down at 87 and deking at 88. If you had Magician on him, I think that would help out a little bit more than some of the other cards. All right, on to the A tier. We are going to start with Buzzing. Now, Buzzing is not all that great of a synergy, I will admit, but speed is the end-all be-all. It is the most important stat in the game. An 89 speed, and having +1 to speed gives it a significant advantage over all the other synergies. 3 to endurance, again, not that impactful. 3 to hand-eye, not that impactful. The 3 to stick checking is, however, so when you combine the fact that you get +1 speed and +3 stick checking, it makes it in the A tier for me. There is a few other speed synergies I would much rather have, but if you had to pick one compared to all these other ones, I think this one would be more impactful for you. Next up in the A tier, we've got Protector. Now, Protector is an extremely good synergy because almost everything that it hits has its usefulness. So 2 to balance. Balance will help you, especially at launch of the game, early on in the game when balance is very low, especially for small players, will help you eliminate those stumble animations when you get bumped. You give +2 to body checking, so that again helps smaller players, allow you to actually bump people off the puck. +2 to defensive awareness. I mentioned this earlier. Defensive awareness is one of the most important attributes in the game. 3 to shot blocking is pointless because again, you are going to be the one blocking shots. And then 2 to slap shot accuracy. Again, it's nothing crazy, but it helps. But I think the balance, body checking, and defensive awareness is a very, very useful. So out of all the ones that don't have speed or acceleration, really, I think that this is one of the best ones you can get. And then lastly, in the A tier, we've got Booming Shot. And again, it just touches on a lot of important things. This is an S tier synergy for some of the female cards because some of their deficiencies in game is the fact their shot power is so low. And while it doesn't really matter on the higher end, but the female cards, for whatever reason, have shot power in like the 75-ish range, and their shots just take forever to get the net. You're never beating a goaltender with them unless you're extremely close. Booming Shot will help with that, but for everyone else, it is an A tier card, so we'll go with +4 to body checking. That is a huge bump up for some of the smaller players that, you know, need that body checking. Even if they aren't small, it's just a very big advantage. +4 to strength as well is crazy when you combine the two. And then slap shot power and wrist shot power is a big bump up, specifically that wrist shot power for those far side low goals that you're trying to score. Just an extremely good synergy. And again, I think it's an S tier ability for all of the female cards. All right, on to the S tier. These are the best synergies in the game. We're going to start with Thief, and I think people might be a little surprised at this, but again, we'll go over to all 5 of these attributes that are impacted are very important to the game. So +1 agility, already mentioned that. Agility is a very, very important stat that allows you to make cuts and very quickly move back and forth. 3 to defensive awareness is the most important defensive stat in the game. +3 to face-offs for centerman, that's huge. 2 to shot power, again, that isn't as impactful, but it doesn't hurt. And then 3 to stick checking. Again, like I said, defensive awareness and stick checking are really your most important defensive stats, maybe body checking as well. But when you add all that together, you just have a great synergy that impacts a lot of things that can help you out. So that is why it is an S tier synergy. Next, we've got Wingman, and I mentioned earlier, speed kills. So +2 to speed, that's really the driver here. That is a pretty impactful bump up. It makes it, you know, it changes the outlook on some cards, including Austin Matthews going from an 88 to 90 overall. Passing is not as important this year. Shot blocking and discipline are among the most useless in the game. Wingman, I would only take if I can't get Fly the Zone, which is what we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But Wingman is still important because of that speed bump. Next, we've got Workhorse. Acceleration is almost as important as speed. I think it actually matters more for defensemen. Acceleration does more than speed because acceleration, if you lose the puck at the blue line, you're able to keep up very quickly with an opponent before they kind of get that breakaway chance. But nonetheless, acceleration +2 to balance, again, is important. +2 to strength or puck control, which can help out hold on to the puck while you're making those dekes. And then +5 to strength is a big bump up for players that need that strength boost. So if you had Workhorse and Booming Shot, for example, if you were able to get those two, that's a huge bump in body checking and strength, as well as acceleration, balance. Like, there's a few combos that are massive if you can get Workhorse on. The only issue is that when Workhorse is available, most of the time, some of the other speed ones are available, and I would rather have those. Next up is Spark, and again, much like some of the other ones, it does impact a lot of useful ones. So +2 to acceleration, very important. +2 to balance, also important. +4 to body checking, which is huge, and then +4 to durability. So durability is useless, but +4 to body checking is not insignificant. So both the Workhorse and Spark are very good synergies to have. Can't go wrong with having this on any of your cards. And then finally, the best synergy in the game, in my opinion, and it is Fly the Zone. +2 to speed. Again, we talked about it. It is the most important stat in the game. +4 to offensive awareness is whatever, because again, like I mentioned, it doesn't have the same impact as you go along. But the +4 to defensive awareness is huge. So you've got +2 to speed and +4 to the most important defensive stat in the game. That's huge. There's no way around it. It is the most important synergy, in my opinion. It is the first one you should try and activate if you can, but it lands at #1 among all synergies. So guys, like I said, this is not going to be the same list that everyone else has. I'm just trying to give you a guideline on how some of the abilities work and why some of these synergies just aren't nearly as impactful as others. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section down below, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.